I am proud of you beyond belief. Every time we have this opportunity in putting up with the strains of the job, we appreciate it. To you that have been... Congratulations. Congratulations. Please. But and we're doing this. Send them to us that way, we've got better police officers. Congratulations. Congratulations. Lieutenant to Captain. You've done a good job, boy. I guess that's it, man.
Well, that's in the case. Thank you very much.
Put that set of stripes on him. If you send them to us that way, we've got better police officers.
Great, man. Appreciate you.
That's right. Corporal to Chief. And I can't tell you how many times a day I'm proud of you. Every time I see one of you, every time I see a unit anyway, I'm proud of the police department. You are well led in Chief Swindle. I wouldn't swap him for a trainload of anybody else I know of for chief. You got good officers, you got good leadership, you got council backing, you got it all. You got public. Didn't take us long to recognize you're a good officer. Stay with it.
From Corporal to Sergeant, Randall Brown.
If I could just get...
It was down to Auburn, Texas A&M. You know, I didn't want to go that far away from home, and I like Texas A&M. I'm like Coach Sherrill. I like Coach Pugh. Both of them were good to me, and I think I got a little bit too close to him, and it was kind of like a friendship type relationship. You know, I should have, you know, just let it be a coach and player relationship, but I did get a little too close to him.
Made it a little harder, huh?
Yeah, it made it a little harder for me to say no, but they understood, and they know that I want to go to Auburn, and I like Coach Dye. And I think Auburn's on the way up.
Maybe you should get together with Marcus Dupree's mother and compare notes sometime.
I imagine we'd have a lot to talk about.
I bet you would.
Well, I think I'm having a good time. You know, it's a place I always wanted to go, and you get a place that a dream come true, like the place you want to go, you know, you're going to have a good time there.
I bet. You come in at a good time, too, because Alabama loses just about all of their secondary, don't they?
Yeah, they got a lot of them leaving, you know. I think I'm the man that can fill in the slots and help them probably to another championship.
I like the winning tradition. I want to be a part of a winning program. I like Coach Bryant, things that he stands for, and the honesty they showed me while I was up there, and hope I can fit into the pro.
You play quarterback in high school. You expect him to do the same in college?
Well, my plans are right now to play quarterback, and if things don't work out, if I don't fit in there, they'll move me to wherever they want me.
Three teams are currently clinging to the SEC leadership, but after tonight's play, that number will be down to at least two. Taking a look at the standings, we see Alabama, LSU, and Tennessee all with identical 9-3 conference slates. Right behind, only a game back, is Kentucky, and lurking in the wings, surprising Ole Miss just 2 games off the lead. The highlight of tonight's play will be in Baton Rouge, where co-leaders LSU and Alabama tangle at 8 o'clock. The 10th-ranked Crimson Tide won their first meeting in Tuscaloosa by 23. It was a game Tiger coach Dale Brown called their Waterloo. Brown vows the Tigers will show better this time out. Tennessee will be at home tonight entertaining Florida. The Vols, after cruising through 9 straight SEC foes, have now dropped 3 straight. The Gators snapped a 14-game losing streak Saturday against Auburn. Another big showdown occurs in Lexington tonight, where Kentucky, trying to keep pace with the leaders, faces Ole Miss. The Rebels, fresh off upsets over Tennessee and Alabama, face a must-win situation if they have any hopes of a conference championship. The bottom 5 of the conference must now try to secure the best possible position for the SEC tournament the first week of March in Lexington. Auburn and Georgia are currently battling for 6th place. Vanderbilt holds down the 8th spot. Florida and Mississippi State bring up the rear. Tonight, Vandy visits Auburn in a 7:30 tip-off. Georgia will entertain Mississippi State. Tonight at 10, we'll have all those SEC scores as well as the highlights from that Auburn-Vandy game. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports.
Oh, it's an excellent situation. There's great interest and enthusiasm for basketball there. People have been just outstanding to us. Of course, I'm in that honeymoon period, where you got the year's grace. We've got a lot of work to do to get this program competitive in this conference in the area of recruiting, but hopefully we'll get it done.
I didn't want to go that far away from home, and I like Texas A&M. I like Coach Sherrill. I like Coach Pugh. Both of them were good to me, and I think I got a little bit too close to them, and it was kind of like a friendship type relationship. I should have, just let it be a coach and player relationship, but I did get a little too close to them.
Made it a little harder, huh?
Yeah, it made it a little harder for me to say no, but they understood, and they know that I want to go to Auburn, and I like Coach Dye, and I think Auburn's on the way up.
You come in at a good time, too, because Alabama loses just about all of their secondary, don't they?
Yeah, they got a lot of them leaving, I think I'm the man that can fill in the slots and help them probably to another championship.
Well, my plans are right now to play quarterback, and if things don't work out, if I don't fit in there, they'll move me to wherever they want me, the defensive back or offense, I'm not sure. Right now, I hope to play quarterback, and maybe I can.
Report to my office, rather, and we got cuts. One of them happens to be brucellosis. But the
Cattlemen's Association,
the president's economic program isn't working. Well, that doggone program's only been in place since about the 1st of October. And if it took 40 years for it to get there, you don't get it turned around in 6 months. And that's where you come in, and that's where you're so critical. And you say, well, gee whiz, the president submitted a budget that's $90 billion deficit, and that's opposite what the president said he was going to do. Sure, he'd like to have a balanced budget in fiscal year 83 just like everybody else. But again, you got a lot of programs in place that just don't get turned around overnight.
And we know the amount of money that we will be dealing with in the general fund, that the Alabama Senate will act as expeditious, must not have been out traveling around the state of is directly proportionate to their commitment to excellence, no matter what their chosen field of American and Alabama values. They are a wholesome, refreshing. Joe, thank you very much. I was informed that he was not here, that he had canceled 10 days ago. And Joe, word picture in the paper, each time I have heard of an award that he has received, the best of American and Alabama values. They are a wholesome, refreshing.
My life, but God fixes it so that I get over Pickens County and get people registered.
We are a people who share that 3 years of Martin Luther King delivered his famous "I have a dream" speech beneath the shadow of the living word.
That we know that you are right because we were right. And we are so proud that people across this nation have focused in and cut in on the struggle and the cause for freedom. We are hoping that because of what we are doing, and we are talking about the foot soldiers, the publicists and what have, will bring about the extension of the Voting Rights Act. People in Macon County, join us. The fight is a fight for all of us, not for Pickens County, but for this nation and this country.
It was the third straight game that Auburn has shot poorly from the field. For the game, the Tigers could hit only 39%. While Vandy sizzled, especially in the first half, they ended the game shooting 55%. But the difference was at the free throw line. The Commodores hitting 29 of 43. Auburn with a good percentage, but they only made 21 trips to the line, hitting 18. Leading Vandy was Phil Cox. He blazed with 24 points, many from long range like this. Willie Hutch-Jones, always a thorn in Auburn's side, added 15-2 on this nice shot inside. The Tigers were paced by 4 men with 12 points. Odell Mosteller scoring inside here. Also Darryl Lockhart, Alvin Mumford, and Frank Poindexter. Freshman Charles Barkley, averaging over 14 per game, did not score, and he fouled out late in the second half. With the win, Vandy improves to 5-8 in the SEC. Auburn also now at 5-8. Reporting from Auburn, Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports.
When the Space Shuttle Columbia blasted into space for the first time in April of last year, it carried on board an Alabama state flag. Today, that flag came home to Montgomery and was presented to Governor James by the 2 men who piloted the Columbia's second mission last November, Colonel Joe Engle and Captain Richard Truly. The flag will now be displayed at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, the NASA facility that developed and tested the space shuttle's engines. Captain Truly thanked Alabamians for the Huntsville Space Flight Center, which he says helped open space to the free world with April's flight. Truly says another mission is planned within the next 3 months, with 2 more flights set for next year. Colonel Engle remembered both the April and November missions as the days when the whole world watched the United States accomplish something no other country can duplicate, launch a space shuttle into orbit and safely return it to Earth. Both astronauts, who trained together for 6 years before the first successful venture, were recognized for their historic mission. Resolutions were presented to the 2 men, who today were called bona fide heroes. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
At City Hall this morning, a representative of the American Law Enforcement Officers Organization, Charlie Jones, presented Montgomery Police Investigator Tony Burks with a Legion of Honor Award. The award is reserved for officers wounded in the line of duty. Burks was shot earlier this year while trying to arrest a drug suspect. In that same incident, Officer Mary McCord was killed. Today, the Medal of Honor was presented to Officer McCord posthumously. Her father, John Taylor, accepted the award. Officer McCord's parents also received other awards for their daughter at today's annual crime prevention program of the Exchange Club of Montgomery. The club presented the Blue and Gold Service Award to the slain officer posthumously, again Mr. and Mrs. Taylor accepting. This is the first award of this type in the nation for the National Exchange Club. 4 other officers were at the program, all nominees for the 1981 Police Officer of the Year Award: Sergeant Michael Farrier, Officer Edwin Spivey, and Officer David Marshall were presented certificates of recognition for outstanding service. And the Police Officer of the Year is Investigator Tony Burks. Burks, who is still recovering from gunshot wounds, said there were not enough words to express his appreciation for today's award, and says he's looking forward to returning to the Montgomery Police Department. Matt Carmack, WSFA TV News.
Oh, are you a registered voter?
Yeah, I'm a registered voter.
Okay, when the last time you been down to the poll?
I think it was last month.
Last month? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have re-identified then, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the first time in Perry County's history, all residents must re-identify if they plan to vote in upcoming elections. Before the re-identification process started last November, there were 9,450 registered voters in the West Central Alabama County. Right now, only 4,700 have re-identified. One area resident, Albert Turner, believes that most of Perry County's voting age population is black. That's why he and other black leaders want to get as many people as possible to register or re-identify.
The people in this area is kind of looking for you. They will not really think you're some green men from Mars, but we will have some local people with you. And all of us would like to stay generally together.
After workers canvass the neighborhoods, they go back and provide transportation to the courthouse, where the residents either re-identify or register for the first time.
The marchers will leave Marion tomorrow morning and go to Selma. Then on Sunday, they'll go to Montgomery in hopes of rekindling the spirit and ideals of the 1965 Voting Rights March. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News in Marion.
Long delays caused by waiting for and receiving the Columbia 2 space shuttle astronauts and some extended debate over a Mobile County local bill postponed a vote by the House on the controversial teacher pay raise issue. The fight over the pay raise bill has now consumed 4 legislative days. Earlier, House Speaker Pro Tem Rick Manley introduced another in a series of resolutions by legislators asking the Supreme Court to issue an opinion on the budget isolation measure. Manley's resolution asked the court to explain the effects of isolation as it relates to the sunset rule. That rule requires the House and Senate, on a given legislative day, to begin action on bills continuing or terminating a number of state agencies. Many feel isolation repealed that requirement, but Manley says he wants an answer. The Senate is the chamber charged with handling the sunset bills this year, and as the rules require, assuming isolation hasn't repealed them, they put the sunset bills on the agenda but never acted on them. They'll surface as the top order of business next week. The Senate did confirm the appointment of Ron Jones as the new chief of the Department of Examiners of Public Accounts, a position he'll assume in October. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
One of the young girls, identified only as Sandra L., was taken away from the home by attorneys and detectives armed with a federal court order signed by District Judge Myron Thompson. That occurred early today, and attorney Maurice Dees led the action.
When we got there, we got the deputy sheriff of Forest County, Mississippi, to assist us in getting in that place. We opened the door of a little cramped building. There was some 70 to 80 girls packed in a room about 40 feet wide and 40 feet long and about 25 feet wide in some kind of religious cult ceremony.
In the court papers, Montgomery Baptist minister John Knutson is accused of telling the young women that they are going to a home for unwed mothers, then keeping them against their will.
Young pregnant women are misled into believing that they're going to be sent to a home for unwed mothers so they can have a baby. Once they get to this home, which is in Forest County, Mississippi, near Hattiesburg, they are locked behind locked doors.
Court documents also charge that the infants born to the young Alabama women are sold by church leaders.
The person who gets the baby then has to pay all the medical bills for the delivery of the baby, doctor bills, $250 a month to Mom and Pop Will's, the Bethesda Home for Girls there, and then are expected to make love offerings to the Redemption Ranch Incorporated, which owns Bethesda Home for Girls. And it's our feeling that these love offerings gives a great opportunity for desperate people who are looking to adopt babies to pay a considerable amount of money.
I attempted to reach Reverend Knutson today, but he was not in. Detectives who tried most of the day to serve the Reverend with court papers in this case still hadn't found him late today. The investigation into the case is expected to continue. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
The vote came as the result of a survey filled out by faculty members on Funderburk's performance. In general, those responding voiced dissatisfaction with Funderburk's leadership. In an overflowing hall, faculty members debated back and forth, first on the merits of the survey itself, and then on the consequences of calling for a vote at all. Some said all the attention belittles the university and should be stopped. Others wanted a postponement to study the survey a little better. History professor Wayne Flint told the members it would be pointless to put off such a vote. One professor argued that Funderburk hasn't been given enough time to prove himself. He said even a football coach gets 2 to 3 years to build a program, but in the end, a vote was taken by secret ballot. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News, Auburn.
So much that we desire to make this the norm for the university. Whatever we decide today, whether to postpone the vote of confidence, or to vote no confidence, or to vote confidence, is for the duration, and the slow bloodletting begins again. Let's resolve this one way or the other today and get on with the business of being a university.
Both sides of the controversy are doing exactly what they said they'd do. The administration is offering teachers a 14% raise and state employees a 10% raise, while education forces are fighting to raise the teacher pay hike to 16%, and state employee supporters are pushing for a 14% raise. The education forces managed to tie the higher increases together, apparently forcing the two special interest groups to support each other, putting the administration and the House leadership even further into the minority. But the House members supporting the governor's proposal are becoming more and more animate, changing their course of attack from dollars and figures to political antagonism. The education forces concede that present dollar projections for the state won't meet their demand for the larger increases, but are instead claiming there are at least 3 or 4 alternatives that could generate the needed money. House Speaker Joe McCorkadale today removed his neutral stance and blamed the education forces of fighting for a raise strictly for votes from teachers. McCorkadale says some of those members acknowledge they're greatly increasing the likelihood of prorating next year's budget. One of the floor leaders of the education forces has reportedly said once they lock the 16% increase in, they'll sit back and let the House leadership fit the raise into the budget however possible. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
We have the Secretary of the Interior here. Certainly
El Capitan in New Mexico. There was a wilderness area, and applications were to lease for the oil and gas under the wilderness area. So the Forest Service recommended, and the Department of Interior agreed, that they could slant drill. So they drill from outside the wilderness down under that wilderness area. There's no intrusion. No one's even allowed to go in there. You can walk in, but you can't go in with a Jeep or anything like that, to get the oil and gas resources out. So, if you write and say that Watt said that he's never leased any wilderness area, they'll come back and say, that's not true, he did. I did, but I put a condition that there would be no occupancy of the land. See, if you can't occupy it, you can't drill on it.
Which is what our interest is. Thank you. Right. Thank you this morning. Right. And if we can, perhaps we'll... In arson fires, we find that people... What I'm demonstrating... And what it's doing is it's actually sniffing the air in through this little device here and combusting those parts it's picking up off the rug. And the rug still has the petroleum product left on it. Yeah, it's picking it up.
How many other states use this kind of device?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you. The state of Louisiana... Jail. What happens when an arsonist gets in a jury trial? Juries tend to let them go because they say, after all, the insurance company's got lots of money. What I'm demonstrating here is that after a fire is started, and what it's doing is it's actually sniffing the air in through this little device here and combusting those parts it's picking up off the rug. And the rug still has a petroleum product left on it even after the burn takes place. Now you can clear it out by clearing the air out. You just blow on it and you actually will clear the air out. And it'll come back and pick. I'll be quite honest with you. The state of Louisiana is now using it, and Mr.
Forensic lab and let them identify themselves. Yeah, this is detect. It's a detector only. All right, we would take that. We would take the investigative aid, and if we detected like
Wide tornado drill test. This is a drill only. A tornado warning drill is now in effect until 11:25 a.m. Central Standard Time. Repeating, this is a drill only. The tornado drill test is now in effect until 11:25 Central Standard Time. All sections of Alabama.
This is the Montgomery Fire Department Disaster Control Center. Be advised, this is a tornado warning drill. I repeat, a drill.
Rain Crimson Tide ran into a buzzsaw in Baton Rouge. The Tigers scored the game's first 8 points and never looked back. Howard High C. Carter paced the Tigers with a game-high 22 on this shot from the lane. LSU led by as much as 20 and held a 17-point halftime lead before the Tide started to whittle away. But LSU's spread offense in the second half kept Bama from catching up as the Tigers were able to convert 10 free throws when Alabama was forced to foul. Freshman Enos Watley led the Crimson Tide charge with 15. He hits here from the corner. The 73-68 loss knocked the Tide out of a first-place tie in the conference. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt rolled the game-high 24 points of Phil Cox to upend Auburn on the Plains 71-60. Tiger coach Sonny Smith called the defeat Auburn's worst effort of the season. The Tigers simply could not get going. They committed numerous turnovers, were out-rebounded, and shot a miserable 39% from the field. The story of the game had to be Vandy free throw shooting. They hit 29 of 43, while Auburn scored 18 from the charity stripe, but they made 22 less trips than did the Commodores. 4 men led Auburn with 12 points each. A notable absence from the Auburn stat sheet was Charles Barkley. He averages 14 per game, but he was held scoreless and could only grab 6 rebounds. He averages 10 per contest. Auburn loses by 9 to Vandy. The Tigers try to rebound Saturday at Mississippi State. Elsewhere in the SEC last night, Tennessee stayed in a first-place tie with LSU by beating Florida 90-75 in Knoxville. Kentucky stayed a game back of the leaders, upending Ole Miss in Lexington 56-49. And Georgia, suddenly playing well, waxed Mississippi State 71-49. At the top of the standings, we see LSU and Tennessee with identical 10-3 marks. Alabama and Kentucky follow at 9-4. Those two meet in a crucial game Saturday in Tuscaloosa. Ole Miss is 5th at 7-6, followed by Georgia at 6-7. Auburn is in a 7th-place tie with Vanderbilt at 5-8. Florida and Mississippi State hold down the cellar. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports.
All down for it. All around.
I suspect some of them will play next year. I think they have that much ability. And I know that they have a real good program down at Troy, and these kids, they'll work real hard, and I'm sure that they'll play next year. So.
This is the Disaster Fire Command Post. If this would have been an actual emergency, this area would have been staffed by top city officials who would have kept in touch with different police and fire units, finding out the extent of damage in the city.
Ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
But today was only a drill. The National Weather Service issued a tornado warning at 11:05. The Weather Service says if you did not receive the warning by 11:10, your method of receiving warnings is not adequate because frequently no more than 10 minutes can be given before a twister strikes. Citizens were asked to act as if a tornado was in their area and to think about what precautions they may have taken in an actual emergency. Cities were also tested to see how fast they could get the warning out to the public. In Montgomery, the fire department has a responsibility of notifying schools, public officials, and sounding the sirens. From the time the fire department received the warning, it took only a matter of moments before the warnings were issued throughout the city. The National Weather Service and Civil Defense are interested in obtaining results of the drill. How soon did you hear the warning? Did you know where to go? Did you actually take cover? To relay information, contact your local National Weather Service office or Civil Defense. Don Phelps, WSFA TV News.
They were told to go door to door and ask Marion residents if they'd gone to the Perry County Courthouse since last November and re-identified as voters. For the first time in the West Central Alabama County's history, everyone must re-identify to vote in upcoming elections. The chairman of Perry County's Board of Registrars says the procedure is needed to clean the voting rolls and keep everything up to date. The residents are asked to bring some form of identification, like a Social Security card and a driver's license.
They got some Medicaid cards, a marriage license or something. A school record. Yeah, something. They got something that will prove that they live here and that they're 21 years, that they're 18 years old.
After all the names were taken, the workers came back to provide transportation to the courthouse.
walk on down up there and I'll meet you at your doorstep, okay?
The residents either re-identified or registered to vote for the first time.
The solemnly swear and affirm that the matter contained in this application for permanent voter registration is the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News in Marion.
Your occupation.
One of the young girls, identified only as Sandra L., was taken away from the home by attorneys and detectives armed with a federal court order signed by District Judge Myron Thompson. That occurred early today, and attorney Morris Dees led the action.
When we got there, we got the deputy sheriff of Forest County, Mississippi, to assist us in getting in that place. We opened the door of a little cramped building. There was some 70 to 80 girls packed in a room about 40 feet wide and 40 feet long and about 25 feet wide in some kind of religious cult ceremony.
In the court papers, Montgomery Baptist minister John Knutson is accused of telling the young women that they are going to a home for unwed mothers, then keeping them against their will. Court documents also charge that the infants born to the young Alabama women are sold by church leaders.
The person who gets the baby then has to pay all the medical bills for the delivery of the baby, doctor bills, $250 a month to Mom and Pop Will's, the Bethesda Home for Girls there, and then are expected to make love offerings to the Redemption Ranch Incorporated, which owns Bethesda Home for Girls. And it's our feeling that these love offerings gives a great opportunity for desperate people who are looking to adopt babies to pay a considerable amount of money.
Detectives who tried most of the day to serve the Reverend with court papers in this case still hadn't found him late today. The investigation into the case is expected to continue. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
This is the National Weather Service in Birmingham. The following is only part of a drill.
2126 in PD. Okay, Jim Wild.
Effect until 11:25 a.m. Central Standard Time.
1106, dispatch 24, PID 671. Okay. Ready. 5, 4, 3, 2.
The original resolution and the reason for calling the meeting was for a vote of no confidence and a call for Funderburk's resignation. But that motion changed after much debate between faculty members. Some said no vote should be taken. Some wanted to postpone it. Still others said it was time to put the issue to rest.
Have we enjoyed the last 2 weeks so much that we desire to make this the norm for the university? Whatever we decide today, whether to postpone the vote of confidence, or to vote no confidence, or to vote confidence, everybody in this room knows the truth. There are honorable people of integrity in all schools on both sides of this issue, a point which I hope we can remember when the dawn comes up tomorrow. And we are also deeply divided.
What caused the problem? A survey circulated to the faculty to evaluate Funderburk's performance as president. Most of those responding expressed dissatisfaction. The final tally, 455 voted no confidence in Funderburk, 415 voted in support of the president, and 66 didn't take a stand either way. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News, Auburn.
Make the motion, and after a second, if no, if we don't, I'll press.
First quarter early, visiting Trailblazers in the lead. They went up 10-5 on this alley-oop to Jim Paxson. Milwaukee tied it at 15. Big Bob Lanier cans this 10-footer. Second period, Bucks go up by 10. Scott May providing the punch. He hits here from 18 feet. But Portland fought back. They got within 1.5 and took the lead early in the third. Calvin Nat with a jam. He had 21. But from there, the Bucks grabbed the lead, never to look back. Brian Winters leading the way with 22 here on this jumper in the lane. Marcus Johnson added 19. This follow-up put the Bucks up by 9 in the fourth. Michael Thompson with a game-high 25 kept it close for Portland, but Milwaukee wins at 116-105, their 7th straight. Portland drops their 3rd in a row. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports.
Right balance. Yeah. Let me see if I can get him to walk around a bit. Barn. Come on out here. Come on out here, boy. Easy out there. Face that. Face.
The results from December's examination, completing the first round of testing, are encouraging to State Department of Education officials. However, educators point out that the improved score and scores from the first 2 exams have remained in the upper 70% range. Officials maintain the certification exams are fair and solid and can be effectively used to evaluate the prospective teacher's performance in the classroom. The first test in the second round of exams is set for March 20th. The other tests are scheduled for June and December. Assistant State School Superintendent Dr. C.C. Baker is hoping for continued improvement on future exams.
I would hope that we would continue to show an increase in the passing rate of these tests. After all, the whole idea is to try to see that the minimum kind of content knowledge that's needed in the classroom as far as teachers are concerned is there when teachers go into the classroom.
State education officials are also mindful of pending litigation against the tests. A class action suit was filed last December by 3 blacks who failed the exams. They claim the tests are racially biased against blacks and focuses on subject matter that's not actually taught in public schools. The suit asks to have this test stopped. However, educators say they will continue to give the exams, which they say are designed to measure the minimum content of knowledge for prospective teachers. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
The decision by the court allows the power company to collect $75 million in higher rates during the next 6 months while the justices continue to look at the overall case.
The $75 million could be refunded to you with interest if the court later decides the Public Service Commission was right when it refused to give the power company any of the $325 million it asked for. The court based its decision to give the power company this temporary relief when it ruled that the PSC didn't consider the $4 million a month it cost the power company to operate its new Unit 2 reactor at the Farley Nuclear Power Plant. The Commission made its decision not to consider the effects of Farley 2 since it felt it was bound to consider the evidence from the company on a test year that didn't include the cost of Farley 2. The test year is a compilation of power company data showing its costs, but the court says an old law binding the Commission to data of the test year has since been repealed. The company will have to post a $150 million bond to collect the $75 million in higher rates, and from here the court will review the entire case and issue a ruling in the future that could mean a lower or higher increase.
Since the order was issued only today, the power company says it hasn't had time to determine how these new rates will be applied or what effect it will have on commercial, industrial, or residential customers. But company spokesman Chris Conway says he doesn't think it'll have a significant impact. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News at the Supreme Court.
The home is located in rural Forest County, Mississippi, about 25 miles north of Hattiesburg. It's secluded and situated away from any other dwellings. There are several buildings on the property, including a tennis court and swimming pool.
What appeared to be a dormitory was under construction. When we went to what appeared to be the administration building, the door was locked. We attempted to get an interview with Reverend Wills. Let's go around this way and see if anybody's here. Come on. Huh? Is Reverend Wills here? Is there anybody we can talk to? Ma'am? Do you know when Reverend Wills will be back? Could I leave my card, ma'am? Put it under the door? Okay. Okay, I'm putting the card under the door. Would you please ask them to call us in Montgomery, Alabama, ma'am? Thank you. The rescue of one of the girls from here yesterday by attorneys and her parents could mean court action, and that court action could shed some light on what's going on here at the Bethesda School for Girls. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Bethesda School for Girls outside Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
All prospective teachers must take the Basic Professional Studies test. There are 35 different subject areas which the student takes depending upon his desired teaching field. Alabama State University students took 29 tests and passed 14 for a 48% passing rate. More tests were taken by Auburn University and Montgomery students. Of the 47 exams given, 43 were passed. That's a 91% rating. Students from Troy State University at Montgomery took only 4 exams. 3 were passed for a 75% rate. State Department of Education officials say they're optimistic and encouraged by the December results, but still maintain the certification exams for the first round of testing remained in the upper 70% range. And even though a suit has been filed to stop all future testing, educators say they will continue to give the exams. The next statewide testing day is set for March 20th. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
At a news conference this afternoon, Teague told reporters his first reaction after viewing the proposed federal education budget was to step forward and oppose it. However, he says he decided to call for a much more detailed study of the situation. Teague's plan calls for a meeting of Alabama congressmen and education leaders to receive solid financial information on the new federalism proposals. He says the objective is to allow representatives of the administration to tell us just what the plan will do to Alabama's public school programs and what it will cost. Teague says he hopes this meeting would be a true work session and not a day filled with speeches and political rhetoric. House Speaker Joe McCorkadale and Lieutenant Governor George McMillan are expected to ask both houses of the legislature to approve a resolution to set up the conference. Teague says he also plans to talk to Governor James about the conference before a date is set. Matt Carmack, WSFA TV News.
This plan is the one.
With 7 days and about 70 miles to go, the voting rights marchers left a rainy Perry County, Alabama today. Earlier, as they have in several other rural counties in central Alabama, they fanned out to locate unregistered voters and take them to the county courthouse to sign the rolls. Blacks are a majority in these counties and have recently begun to win elective office. The Voting Rights Act has ensured that blacks have been able to register, and many black office holders say it has been the key to their election.
And I think the Registration Act and guidelines by that will see that it goes on fairly.
Is there a chance that without that law it might not be fair?
I think so.
This afternoon, the group arrived in Selma, the midway point in this march in support of the Voting Rights Act. The act, unless it's renewed by Congress, will expire this year. Bill Schechner, NBC News, Selma.
First, the proposed budget contains $1.5 million annually for veterinary care for military pets, not guard dogs, pets. A $1 billion line item from which morale enhancement activities are funded. These include items such as squash courts, golf courses, bingo operations, reduced price liquor, and naval riding stables. I'm not necessarily attacking programs, but I am saying that if education must be cut by almost $3 billion, perhaps we should look at some of these items.